Nobody likes trying to figure out how to write up their methodology chapter. What should you include? What order should you present it in? Well, keep watching, because in this video I'm going to give you 6 key headings to use in your methodology chapter. Context, sampling, data collection, data analysis, ethical implications, and lastly, changes and reflections. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, and I've been helping social science postgraduate students supercharge their dissertations for the last 20 years. And in my view, the methodology chapter is one of the most straightforward chapters of your dissertation to write. But a lot of people get stuck on it. And I think the reason a lot of people get stuck on it is because, frankly, there is so much bad, confusing advice out there. Hence this video. So those 6 key headings that I mentioned, let's get right into them. We do not mess about here on this channel, we are straight in there. Firstly, context, the bigger picture. Remind the reader about the aims and objectives of the research. So what was it you wanted to find out, and how did you go about doing that? You'll have a set of research questions, so go back to them now and address how you went about answering them through doing your own study. You don't need to be really specific here, because you can say much more about this in the sections that follow on from this one. But you do need to describe who or what you studied and how you studied them or it. Did you take a qualitative approach or a quantitative one, or did you do a little bit of both, a bit of mixed methods? What about your ontology and epistemology? And if you need help with those things, I've got a video for that. I'll also link to that in the description. For example, you might have been trying to find out how young people use social media to find graduate employment. You wanted to investigate this, explain this, and identify the causes. What factors influence young people's use of social media when they're trying to find a job? What patterns and trends exist? As such, you might have conducted an online survey of people who'd graduated from UK universities since 2019. That's the kind of thing you need to tell the reader here. Keep it concise, keep it simple, keep it broad. All research projects are based on a sample, because it is highly unlikely that you were able to look at all of the people or all of the cases, so you looked at a proportion of them. In this section, you need to explain how you went about selecting that particular proportion, that particular sample. How big or small was your sample, and what criteria did you use to decide whether to include someone or something in the sample or not? Who or what was included or excluded, and how did you go about drawing the line? Where did you find your people or cases, and why did you go about it in this way? Was there a particular sampling method you used, one of these, for example? And in terms of the general approach that you took to your sample, to getting your sample, why was this the best approach? Why was this better than other things that you could have done? Given who or what you were studying, why did you make these decisions? Next up is data collection. That's our 3rd heading. What actual techniques did you use to collect your data, and why were they the most appropriate? This is where a lot of students fall down in their methodology chapter. They'll tell us what they did. They'll say, I used semi-structured interviews, or I did a questionnaire online, but they won't tell us why. They won't tell us why that was the best method to use. So you should always explain this, explain why you made those choices, and always link this back to your research questions, your aims, and your objectives. There should be a consistent story that makes sense. So let's say, for example, that you wanted to investigate whether there's a relationship between the amount of sleep that people get on a Sunday evening and the type of coffee they buy at the coffee shop on a Monday morning. Now, you're not going to get the answers that you need through doing an in-depth, qualitative, unstructured interview with 1 or 2 people. That is not going to get you to those patterns and those trends and see whether there's an actual relationship there. What is going to work much better in that instance is if you do a survey. You'd be much better off doing a survey of a large number of people, because this will give you data that you can quantify and develop inferences from to actually establish whether there is a relationship between those 2 variables and what the nature of that relationship is. After that, we've got data analysis. So once you'd collected your data, what did you actually do with it? And again, a similar issue often comes up in this section to the one that came up in the last section. So students will explain what they've done, so a particular technique they've used, so a particular statistical test or thematic analysis or something else, but they won't explain why they've used that particular analytical technique. So again, please make sure that you take the time to do this. Explain why you use this method of analysis, why it was the most appropriate, how it links to your research questions and your aims and your objectives. And again, you need that consistent story here. You need everything to kind of come together and make sense collectively. How is the data analysis technique that you've chosen consistent with your general approach to this research? How does this help you get answers to the questions that you're asking? And why is this technique better than other techniques? Next up are ethical considerations. So in this section, you need to be talking about the ethical considerations of your research, the ethical issues that you anticipated coming up in your research project and how you went about tackling them. This is going to involve writing about things like preventing harm, ensuring informed consent, tackling any privacy issues that emerge, and avoiding deception. So how did you deal with those issues in your research project? And that will involve writing about things like what information you provided your participants with and how you went about ensuring that that was accessible and relatable. What opportunities did you provide for your participants to ask questions about the research or indeed withdraw from the research? What was the process for doing that? If you didn't have participants as such, if you were looking at documents or cases, then what ethical issues emerged there? Did you have to anonymise any of the documents or use pseudonyms for the names of the participants or anything like that? And lastly, changes and reflections. The last section of your methodology chapter should critically comment upon any differences between what you planned to do and what you ended up doing. Very rarely does a research project pan out exactly how we'd envisaged it. Often we have to make little tweaks and little changes, and here you need to write about why you did that. Did any issues arise that you just hadn't anticipated, and how did you deal with them? For example, you might have been reliant on a gatekeeper to give you access to a group of participants, and unfortunately, that person let you down. They stopped replying to your emails and they ghosted you, and they really left you in the lurch. So how did you overcome that? How did you actually get access to the group of participants that you ended up with? How did you pivot? How did you change your approach? And what impact did that have on your overall research? And there you have the outline of your dissertation methodology chapter. Context, sampling, data collection, data analysis, ethical implications, and changes and reflections. There is one more thing that I need to tell you about the methodology chapter, and this is about when you're writing it up. So when you're writing it up, you should be writing in the past tense, okay? You should be writing about what you did rather than what you are planning to do. This is just standard practice in social science dissertations. This is how these chapters are written. And it totally makes sense, doesn't it? Because by the time that somebody is reading your dissertation, your research is done, it's finished. So the past tense is the most appropriate one. And it's also a really good way of making a clear distinction between a dissertation and a research proposal. So in a research proposal, you haven't actually done the research yet. You are proposing a piece of research. So it's completely appropriate in a research proposal to talk about what you're going to do or what you're planning to do. But when it comes to the actual methodology chapter of your dissertation, you've done the research, you've analysed the data, you've written it up, it's done, it's finished, it's over with. So write in the past tense. So that's it, I'm done. I will be back next week with more dissertation tips.